Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. We have the Squadron 42 monthly report, so let us break it down today. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. And if you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. So kicking off with the AI content team, they worked on various behaviours which ranged from NPCs during their downtime and rest, like eating, exercising, sleeping and so on. The dynamic conversations were also introduced amongst the deck crew, where they can discuss their work to create a more cohesive atmosphere, and it will be interesting to see just how realistic this will feel, as often in games background NPC dialogue can be very robotic. Now, NPCs were also implemented in several key areas to help flesh out and fill the environments, while various locomotion sets were added to these NPCs to make the movement and crowds feel more realistic, which they say ranged from security guards on tram stops to janitors on Shuban, and also hawker kiosk-based vendors that can interact with players and NPCs. So good to hear that they are still planning on having NPC shopkeepers or stall holders able to physically interact with their items and their inventory while talking to you, presenting these items to the player, while also offering the option to just browse their wares via a kiosk, kind of the best of both worlds. And finally, for the Fight Club, speed animations were added for crowd spectators alongside, they say, high quality fight animations. Now, I would love to see these kinds of things, as one day I suspect our own characters will be able to use these animations while fighting, as Chris Roberts did say a long time ago on one of his 10 for the Chairmans, that eventually he would like to have various martial arts styles to be available. So we will see how that evolves. Now, for the AI features team, they worked on reactions to restrained AI, which enables players to use hand and leg restraints to prevent a character from moving. And this, they say, builds upon the healing and waking of downed and unconscious AI, as restraining can work in tandem with other actor statuses, like AI being awake, unconscious, or even bleeding out while restrained. So this is quite a huge deal, and of course here we can see that this is needed for Squadron 42, but ultimately this will be work shared for Bounty Hunting version 2, which they are heavily investing in right now, and how players will be capturing bounties or players as bounties and then taking them to the bounty admin office. Also, I think it would be very cool, say, to head to a location where there are multiple bounties to restrain, and then you restrain them one by one as you make your way through the environment. Very much hoping that we hear more about Bounty Hunting version 2 at this year's CitizenCon. As I say, it is heavy focus for many teams right now. The AI features team then moved on to a gunfight section within the campaign, where the AI need to choose cover opposite the player in a circular arena. And this, they say, required a bespoke TPS query to provide cover and special functionality to recognize when to move to a new position. They also continued to polish and iterate on the wide range of other functionalities to improve overall quality, including melee attacks, buddy AI, grenade throwing, grenade reactions, and attack and defend areas. Now, there is so much going on for AI and NPCs in many areas of development, and I really can't wait until they get the servers on the PU stable enough for us to properly appreciate it all in the verse. Hopefully they can do that before server meshing, like maybe with the separation of the replication layer, but we will have to see how that goes. And then finally, on the animation side, the team continued to iterate on full animation sets to implement the different combat styles employed by the game's various factions. Now, this sounds like it'll be quite an interesting aspect of the campaign, and hopefully the PU as well, how each gang will fight in different ways, using different tactics, weapons, and so on, with the player having to react and learn as they encounter them. Now, for the AI tech team, they finalized their work on dynamic pathfinding regeneration, which allows dynamic paths to detect when a nav mesh is modified and checks whether it's still valid or if a new path request is needed. So I guess it's building a pathing system that gives the AI the ability to think on the fly almost for every situation they come upon and decide which route to take. The team also continued to develop a feature to allow NPCs to enter and exit a ship's airlock from EVA, and for this they had to consider cases where the ship or space station is moving or slightly rotating, with them currently working on a situation where an NPC transitions from ship gravity to 0G by vaulting over a ledge. I can imagine there are probably many edge cases there. Now, for the AI vehicle feature team, they spent the month finalizing the new combat AI, enabling it throughout Squadron 42, and this rework has been in development for a while and improves the overall flight combat in the game, and now they are tuning, tweaking, and improving the combat experience, with the team saying, we'll be soon taking a closer look at every single individual combat encounter and fine-tuning them all to feel great. Also, this is a system that I'm sure when implemented into the persistent universe will create a lot more nuance to ship combat against NPCs. As we have heard in the past, a lot of other behaviours for flight combat have been worked on for AI as well. Now, moving on to the animation team, they began a deep dive into every parent asset in the game to cull broken, not needed, or poorly performing animations. They also continued to work on zero-G takedowns, with recent work on heavy denials and sedative takedowns. I mean, I never even considered the need for a takedown in zero-G, but of course they will be necessary, so interesting to hear this. The team also progressed with animations for personal carriers, animals, the janitor behaviour, crowds cheering, and player revival of AI. Animal animations will likely mean that they have actual animals to animate. I know it sounds obvious, but really hoping to see some of these at CitizenCon this year. Maybe if they are further working on Pyro or Stanton's creatures, they'll be able to show them off, as they have been very sneaky about their fauna. Now, for the facial side, the team worked on idle faces for the various states of AI, including sick, punk, severe pain, tired, scared, and drunk, with the team saying that this will improve the AI considerably, as we believe the moment you see a person's face, you naturally look at it. Instead of when that face is hidden by a helmet, you end up looking at the full body. We have also been working on facial animations for many narrative scenes. Another area that, if they can do it right, it could be very immersive, seeing or speaking with NPCs and having their faces reacting as you would expect, so hopefully this is done right. Now, for the audio team, it says they enhanced sounds across the game, sound effects designed and implemented essential assets for ambience, weapon, and UI, while Audio Code finished developing cutting-edge propagation tech to redefine how sounds travel. So this I remember hearing about quite a while ago and was very excited when I heard about it then, but I'm talking maybe 2 years ago they mentioned this. So hopefully we get to hear how it works, as the idea being that a sound is emitted from its source, and then having that sound travel naturally from its source down corridors, for example, to where the player is. And a system like this will certainly be appreciated when exploring places like derelict space stations or ships, as you could have just entered and you hear a sound from somewhere deep within as it bounces off the various surfaces traveling to you. So I really hope that they show this off, because I feel like it'll be such a cool experience. Now, the team also refined the character breathing system for different health states, fixing bugs and organising dialogue across the campaign, which also involved investigating the various health states of the player and how breathing systems can elevate the experience. I must say it is nice to finally be at the stage where systems that were brought in quite a while back in their very early states, like Tier 0, Tier 1 states, are now starting to get refined, as it will just add so much more to the game, especially in immersion side of things, and just polishing it up to make it feel better, a lot more quality of life to it too. Now, for the gameplay features team, they spent time adding new Mobiglas applications, including the Galactapedia, which, as I'm sure most of you know, a reference for people, vehicles, planets, systems, items, basically everything in the universe, and it says that as the player progresses in the campaign, the Galactapedia will be updated with information gathered. Now, this is very exciting to hear. I have been waiting for this to be in the PU for so long. They mentioned it a little while ago, having the ability to read or even eventually listen as articles are read to you while you are in the game, say traveling from one location to the next. So the fact that they are bringing this into Squadron 42 now means that it shouldn't be too long until it gets to the PU, as I think going on these long-haul cargo runs, listening to the Artemis story or Kid Crimson would be such a cool part of the experience. Anyway, moving on, the personal status app for the Mobiglas now has a skill page, or skills page, detailing the player's ability and how they have improved, including an attributes page detailing what items have been unlocked and how progress is going on others. Now this is referring to things like the player's ability to run for a longer duration or swim underwater holding their breath for longer periods of time, the more that you do that action in game. Now, Star Citizen is a skill-based game. It is not stat-based like an RPG or like traditional MMOs, but the more that you do something, the more that your body or your character's body will adjust and be more capable. It's a very fine line between skill and just buffs and debuffs, and hopefully they can do it right where it doesn't encroach on player skill, but this will certainly help with having each player having more nuance to their character and offering things that the other character might not be able to. Like if you can hold your breath for longer, and there's a situation where in order for you all to escape from your ship underwater, someone has to swim to unlock a door or press a button or whatever, choosing a player whose character can hold their breath the longest will be very beneficial. Now the team also implemented a way for the designers to create custom damage maps that can be applied to vehicles or items, giving more control over how damaged they appear over time. Now this is going to be quite an influential system when it comes into things like item management and looting, looking after your items to keep them going longer, maintaining them, keeping them free from malfunctions, or even when it comes to looting, choosing one item over the other when deciding which one to take. For example, if one is more damaged or worn, it might be worth a lot less or just be useless. But more on this on the PU report, I believe, so do stay tuned for that one. Now, gameplay features also progressed with the minimap, adding markers for the player, NPCs, objectives, and more, and these can now be clamped to the edge of the map if they are off-screen. So this is similar to what we see on basically any other game that has a minimap, having this little minimap of the local area that you are in, what is around you, nothing groundbreaking, but a feature that certainly is needed in Star Citizen. And then finally, additional work was done on the character customizer, exposing it to the new hair rendering tech that allows players to change their hair's base colour and highlights. So nice to see more updates to customization on its way, and a lot of the work on the new character customizer, all the new head variations, has made a lot of progress, so hopefully we get to see that soon. Can't imagine it will allow beards, because I'm assuming being in the military it might be quite restrictive, but we will see. Now, moving on to the vehicle features team, they supported various design initiatives across Squadron 42's chapters, including work on the Coil's electromagnetic gas clouds, working with VFX and design to implement various special effects to support the player's experience of flying into and around the gas clouds. They also continued to finalize control surfaces and the new aerodynamic flight model, which were integrated into the normal ship throttle and speed control mechanics. They also integrated other environmental effects relating to master modes, so they now work across the different flight modes, with the team saying, "We should hopefully be at the point now where this new flight model can be enabled game-wide and tested in situ in Squadron 42. Now this is great news. I am so happy to hear that they are finally at the point where we can fully test this, and talking of which, I believe the Evocati have just received a PTU build for 320, which is locked to Arena Commander as they specifically test master modes, which I bet also has the new control surface update as well. So it looks like 320 is potentially the patch for control surface flight, master modes. Very incredible stuff. It could just be test cases in Arena Commander rather than spread out wide to the PU. I believe that is more likely, so that they can refine it and tune it for Squadron as well as the PU when it's eventually ready. But ultimately, it will be a lot of fun testing that out, even in Arena Commander. Anyway, moving on. The team also further developed various UI areas in June, and to help with the flow of levels, they worked with other teams on a markers and objective system that shows players where to go, what destinations exist, and what is around them, which they say also includes new markers for quantum destinations, scanning signatures, and more, and these markers can contextually enable and disable depending on progress in the game. The team also progressed with the ship loadout terminal, which is a physical terminal in the Idris hangar where players can customize their ships before a mission. It is also being currently integrated with the various ship items, so they show up alongside player items. Now this will certainly be brought to the players' hangars in the persistent universe once sorted for Squadron 42. MFDs, or multifunction displays, also progressed, and currently they are being enabled game-wide, with the team now focusing on unique MFDs for the scanning system to show contacts and allow the player to look up information about the things they've scanned. Now, another great, much needed update that will bring major quality of life improvements for the persistent universe when implemented. Having properly functioning and useful ship MFDs for all of the various ship needs, and having a scanning system as well that the player can basically find something, actively look up what this could be and make an informed decision on what to do. Likely going to be a big part of exploration gameplay as well when that comes along. And then finally, for the vehicle features team, they worked on the boat physics model, with the core physics model working well and improvements and tweaks being made to improve the experience. Now, I would certainly love to have a nice, small little boat, nothing big, head out over a lake where I built myself a small shack, just to live out my days, maybe fishing for food. Yes, please, CIG. I would love that now. Thank you. Now, for the gameplay story team, they continued to maintain and improve a large number of scenes across the campaign, 2 of which were updated to use the approved seated pose, with one now using the approved datapad and the other updated to match the approved button height. And alongside this, a scene in Chapter 1 was expanded with several new encouragement animations and dialogue. The team then supported the wider development initiative on Chapter 5, improving a character introduction at the beginning to make it more responsive. New start and end animations were added to 2 different scenes in the middle of the chapter, and a full polish was completed for a large scene at the end. And finally, the team got all of the bridge operator seat setups approved, with just the air traffic controller seat remaining, which unblocked several scenes for the cinematics and wider gameplay story team. Now, I do wonder if any of these bridge operator seats are going to be the same systems that we use in the PU, or if they're more bespoke for the campaign, where players might not be interacting with them themselves. Now, for the level design team, they made another significant push on Chapter 5's Shuban Archon content, with it being the team's largest walk and talk level, featuring 2 NPC guides and numerous background scenes and NPCs, with the team saying it has been a huge challenge to implement and another for maintaining it, but we are very pleased with where it is at now. And finally, the team also continued to focus on Stanton and Krugeri interstitial scenes. For example, they made a full pass on an emergency medical triage area in the Krugeri's hangar, and as pointed out to me last month, the Krugeri is the Bengal carrier that Mark Strong's character Thomas Wade is the captain of. I have never heard of that before for some reason, but even a quick simple Google of it revealed everything, so thank you all for pointing that out. Now, for the narrative team, they worked closely with core gameplay design and audio on player wildlines that will be used throughout the game, covering everything from generic responses to providing additional assistance during puzzles. Also, as scripts continue to solidify, the narrative team expanded tasks to begin addressing the various text needs of the game, which included outlining the game's version of the Galactapedia, determining which entries will be included from the current list and which will be crafted specifically for Squadron 42, various collectibles, player skills, and mission performance reviews. And once the team has finished capturing the remaining narrative and gameplay content, they'll focus more on these text requirements and other requests, including environmental messages and fluff screens that will appear throughout the game to provide additional storytelling. Now, moving on to the tech animation team, they integrated their long-awaited changes to the DNA system. This will enable new head assets and provide a pipeline that will open new ways to author and customize new game content. They also began new initiatives while they wait for further head art. So it sounds like they're getting all the art, or all the different head assets and whatnot, into this new character customizer system, which is how we will be creating our character for Squadron. And then finally, we have the visual effects team. They investigated shader requirements for fire propagation, and code-wise, the fire propagation system has been in progress for a while, but it has now reached the point where the visual effects artists can work with the environment art to decide how various locations should look when burning or burnt. And finally, improvements and optimizations were made to various lightning effects. So again, nice to see yet another long initiative coming to a point where it's either close to rolling out, being rolled out, or in this case, having the downstream team start working on it, which means it shouldn't be too long until we start seeing fire coming into other areas of the game. So that was the Squadron 42 monthly report. Quite a lot of great information there about many long-standing systems coming to completion or implementation, and there is certainly going to be a huge flurry of features and content to take the PU from where it is now to a much more refined and smoother experience, closer to where CIG wanted. Talking of which, I will now get to work on the Persistent Universe monthly report. There is, as always, a great amount of information there as well. So with that said, if you do appreciate my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Come and follow me over at twitch.tv/supermacbrother. You are all more than welcome over there. The link is in the description below. Hit the thumbs up if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Again, a big thank you to my patrons and channel members. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.